Following on from our previous two videos, we now need to keep track of our particle. So we've got the equation for our circle is given by this. Now let's keep track of this particle along the y equals 0 axis. So we are going to keep track of this particle here, the one where along the x-axis we are keeping track of this particle. So going back to here, so we are trying to keep track of this particle here. So as the purple circle moves around, don't forget, as c increases, as c moves from 0 to 2 pi, as it moves around, we need to somehow obtain this location. So we need to create a function where we input c, and c is driving everything. C is what's important. So as it's moving around, let's say currently c is here, this angle here is c. We need to somehow keep track of this point here. We need to somehow keep track of this. So the equation of a circle is given by this, which is this circle here. Well, if you want to find out for given c, we need to somehow work out this x here, this x location. This represents this point. So this is the equation for our circle. We want to know when the circle will be at y equals 0. So you put this 0 into the y, because you are trying to find out when this circle will have a height of 0. Also, you've got another one here, but we don't really care about this one. We only care about this one. So you put 0 into the y, so that will then give you this. So our equation will then become this. So now tidy this whole thing up. Multiply this out. That will then give you this. And 0, take away this thing, and then when you square a negative, it becomes a positive. And then this stays the same. And don't forget, we are trying to seek x. So notice that let me think. Notice that in a way that this is in a form of a quadratic formula, because this is in a quadratic form, because you've got x squared, and then you've got x, and then you've got your constant. So in a way, this is of the form ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. In a way, it's of this form, because you've got your x squared here, and then you've got your x here, and then everything else are just constants. So let me just illustrate it. So now tidy this up. This will cancel out with this, so that will then give you this thing here. This x squared stays the same, and then if you look at this block and this block, you can factor out this thing here. So that will then give you this, and then this stays the same, and then cos squared plus sine squared, that equals 1. So this whole thing here, this whole block here, is the number 1. So this thing here would just become a squared over 4, which cancels out this thing here, cancels out with this thing here. Don't forget, this thing here is the number 1. So these two will cancel each other out, leaving you with this. And this is really easy to solve, because it is of the form x squared plus, I don't know, whatever, x equals 0. So what you do is you factor out the x, and then that's so now to solve this, factor out the x. That will then give you this. So now to solve this, you've got one bubble multiplying, oops, hang on, bear with me. You've got one bubble, currently you've got one bubble multiplying with another bubble, and you're trying to make it equal 0. So either make this to be 0 or this to be 0. Or so that implies that x equals 0 is one solution, and the other solution would be you trying to make this bubble to be 0. So try and make this bubble to be 0. If you're trying to make this bubble to be 0, then x must be this thing here. What I'm trying to say here is that this location here is this thing here, a cos c. This location here is a cos c. This location here is a cos c. So let's try and implement that in our animation. So we've got to create a particle, and the particle at that point will be, well, the height would be 0. So let's import our particle. The height, it would be something comma 0, because the height would be 0, and that's the across is what was it? It was a cos c. So it would be a cos c. So now we've got our particle right there. So now if we vary c, no matter where c is, it's keeping track of where it crosses the x-axis. So no matter what the location of c is, so no matter where c is, let's say c is over here. Let's say c is over here. Let's say c is somewhere over here. Well, it's just going to keep track of this point here, no matter where c is. So if the circle is over here somewhere, hang on, let me draw it properly. Let's say the circle is somewhere over here, so it will be something like this. Something like this, and then we will keep track of this location. So we're always keeping track of where y equals 0, because we put 0 into the y earlier. So it will always give us an x location, which will then mean which will identify where it crosses the x-axis. Okay, so in the next video we will look at where. No, actually, let's do it in this video. Let's try and keep track of where it crosses this axis. So we are now trying to keep track of this particle here. So we are trying to keep track of this. Well, this thing here is when x equals 0. So looking at the equation of our circle, which is this circle here, put 0 into the x. And now our job is to find y, because well, for given c we want to find y, because y tells us the height when x equals 0. So when x equals 0, we want to find where it crosses the y-axis. So we are trying to seek y. So we are trying to find a way of, for given c, let's say this angle here is now c. We've got to find out where it crosses the y-axis. So put 0 into the c, into the x. So that will then give you this, and then now same as earlier, multiply, tidy up the whole thing. Well, if you square this thing here, it will give you. If you square this thing here, it will give you y squared, and then this thing, and then this thing. And then this thing here would be this thing here, because even though you've got a minus here, you're squaring a minus, so it gives you a positive. Well, anyway, from here that will then take you to here, and then same as before, blah blah blah, and then y will be given by this thing here. So now we can create our second particle. This time the x-axis would be 0, so 0 comma, but the height would be a sine c. Close it off, and then now as you vary c, as you vary C, where is it? As you vary C, it will keep track of the y-axis and the x-axis. So now let's change C. Let's get it to animate. Instead of doing 1 revolution, let's make it 5 revolutions. Yep. So now press play. A bit fast, so slow it down and get it to turn in one direction. So it's keeping track of the x-axis and the y-axis. In the next video we will take care of all the other particles. Okay.